Hey Plyos fam, we're going to be looking at getting into the meanings and reasons behind why we use our light tier plyometrics at Plyos. And I wanted to get into this because I thought it was important for you guys to really start to understand our reasoning behind the use of light tier plyos. Okay, so what is a light tier plyo? Good example, just a simple leap, okay, where we're being relatively stiff, short ground contact time, relatively light ground reaction force. So it's just nice, relaxed, easily bounce on 2 feet is our leap. Okay, hands could be on hips, hands could be on head. You could be using your hands. Okay, as you can see, these landings are not maximal in any form. They are our sub-maximal friend that we're able to use at lower levels of athlete. We're looking at more beginner type athletes, but we're also able to use them even up to the elite and high performance world of training. And this is because we realistically can have these as a form of tier to kind of move into the rest of our session. Okay, whether we're going to use them for activation, we might be using them again to kind of neurally prep ourselves. We're kind of getting some excitation into our body, and we're really preparing it for maybe what's to come next. And that could be anything from bigger, harder plyometrics. We're looking more towards our medium or ping tier. It could even be us using going straight into some sort of weightlifting. That could be Olympic lifting. It could be anything from a deadlift to a back squat. Realistically, these are great methods to get the body prepared. So when we're looking at breaking down a light tier plyometric, obviously we have hundreds of variations and ways in which we can do them. But if we're to really look at it on a simplistic form, if we look back at our leaps, our light tier leaps, just standard linear, straightforward, 2 feet balance kind of underneath our shoulders in a pretty reasonable standard stance. How do we look at the way in which we land? Now I like to preach our kind of full foot emphasis of our landing strategy. Okay, so what I mean by full foot is that the foot is landing in a full position. Some people may be a little bit higher off of the heel. The heel is likely to touch down and then leave the ground again. But we're looking really to hit that kind of sweet spot just behind the ball of the foot, where that arch of the foot starts, okay? So when we come into land, it is important that we are emphasizing a little bit of a toe up or dorsiflex motion, so that as we're coming in, we are able to strike down and hit the ground rather than it hit us. Okay, so again, just to show you that example of what a kind of compliant light tier leap looks like. Okay, so I'll show you. We're landing in a full foot motion. Again, you should notice that this is super relaxed, but it is pretty dynamic. Hands could be on hips just to avoid any interference. But we're landing full foot and then we're popping back off the toe. And you see that typical kind of flinch that initiates from the hip and from the ankle, which looks like knee extension, but actually we're getting that pop from the hip, which synchronizes with the ankle. If you're an athlete that you think that struggles with that kind of timing, this could be why. It could be that the ankle's a little bit slower than how quickly the hip flinches, or vice versa. Okay, so we're looking at that active flinch, okay? So in a split stance leap or split exchange leap, we're getting that same flinch, okay? We're popping off the ground, but I'm getting the active flinch from the hip and from the ankle. So now that we've kind of looked at our landing strategy, and our landing strategy can be the same on one leg, okay? We're looking at still hitting right underneath the hip. Okay, we're looking at stacking the body all the way from our shoulder through our hip, through our knee, and through our ankle. Realistically, we want to be in a tall position because most of our light tier plyos are more up and down, vertical based. Okay, they're not so horizontal in the angular momentum that we do get, so that we are getting a slightly ever so different contact to what we might feel in, let's say, medium horizontal base bounds, okay, where we are coming in and we're looking at striking the ground in a slightly different motion. We're getting more of a pouring action, and that's just to send us more horizontally. So our light tier stuff is more up and down, it's more vertical. So we're getting much more of a stack where we're trying to attack underneath us. Okay, so it's just that slight tweaks and difference of how we go about it. And actually, I'm not even sure that we necessarily need to coach that into people. I think that it is a pretty natural process. You know, it wouldn't happen when we're trying to accelerate in comparison to when we are in maximal velocity running. Okay, so our acceleration is pretty similar to how you might see the medium tier kind of horizontal angular momentum based stuff. Okay, and you could say that our upright running is more based around our light stuff. Okay, with how we attack kind of underneath the body. Okay, so light tier plyos as well, I think, are really great ways in which we can teach patterns. Okay, so this can be our way in to bigger and, you know, higher ground reaction force based movements, maybe even faster ground contact times. Okay, so this can be a great way to pattern the brain and the body to get ready for those bigger movements. Okay, and we're able to do a lot higher volume because they are less on the ground reaction force side of things. Okay, so we're able to teach in much higher volumes as you would with any kind of skill. We're looking at really trying to build a good map between the brain and the body and the limb that's hitting the ground. So if we are to prepare our body with the light tier stuff to get ready for the ping tier based stuff, obviously there needs to be a slight bridge in what we do, you know, while bringing in the medium tier stuff, but the light tier is our way in, I think, and it's really important for us to use this realistically in every single session that we do plyometrically, or if you're really kind of falling in love with the plyometric process and what you're gaining from that within the whole of your program, use it for your sprints, use it for your weight training, as I mentioned before. Okay, so you're always learning with the light tier movements, and I think it's really important that we continue to use these throughout our programs because it actually builds kind of a high volume of lighter plyometric volume that is potentially going to support how you move kind of for the rest of your life. Okay, so if you're able to build in hundreds of more light tier landings, what can that do to the rest of your program and the way that you move? So hopefully you've kind of grabbed a few bits from that and learned something new about the light tier plyos and that you can use them regularly in your program.